Hello, Internet! I'm Melly the Purple Doofus, and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today we are covering chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 of part 3 of Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I hope you've read up to that point yourself, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. So this section starts off with Poirot and the two men discussing how this murder might have possibly happened. And they're discussing the door, and they're discussing the uniform, and who might have worn the uniform, disguised himself as this tall, dark man who had a high-pitched womanly voice. That gives you some insight as to how the mind thinks, but it doesn't give you any concrete answers. And then Poirot hands off this list of all of the suspects and all of the evidence that is either against them or for them, or the fact that they don't have any evidence at all. And most of the people are just kind of, I'm looking at this list and I'm like, well, if they don't have any evidence against them and they have a clear alibi that is corroborated by someone else, I just kind of like went, they're clear. But Poirot's main suspect, she has no evidence against her, she has no motive, and she has a clear alibi. Yet still, Poirot suspects her the most, and I'm thinking, why? And then I'm thinking, this is why I'm not the greatest detective in the world, because I do not suspect her at all, given all of the evidence that we have seen. Then Poirot asks 10 questions, which can really be boiled down to 6 questions. They discuss the answers to these questions. The first being the handkerchief. Where did the handkerchief come from? Who owned the handkerchief? And the other 2 guys whittle it down to 3 women who might have possibly owned that handkerchief. Poirot says, but there is a 4th. And they're like, we don't get it. We don't understand. And he's like, I will explain presently. I will explain soon. And then they go on to the second question, which is about the pipe cleaners that they found and how it links you to the colonel. And they're like, and Poirot's like, yes, but that is a false clue. Someone planted those specifically to lead us to the colonel. Okay, and then they go to the third question. Well, the third and the fourth question, which is basically who wore the night watchman uniform and who wore the red kimono. And Poirot says, I do not know yet, but I will find out. Then we have questions 5 through 8 are all about the time, because there was a watch that was there and it was broken at a certain time. And so they're like, is that the time that the death occurred, or did the death occur earlier or later? And if it was earlier or later, why was it set to that time? Poirot doesn't have any specific answers, but he just allows the men to think about that for a bit. The final question is about the wounds all over Ratchet's body and whether or not these wounds were inflicted by one person or 2 people, and whether or not those people were right-handed or left-handed. And this is where Poirot says, you may have noticed that I made people write down their answers for their name and their address. That is because I was checking their hands. And I was like, aha! I was right! Aha! Yes! I am the smartest man in the world! I am the smartest... Oh, and I still don't know who did it, though. Damn it! He also mentions that just because they write with that hand doesn't mean that they don't do other things with the other hand. Yep. And then Poirot starts talking about a grease spot on the passport of the Countess. And the men are like, why are you talking about this grease spot? And he's like, well, I also noticed that her luggage was wet. And they're like, what does that have to do with anything? He says the Christian name on that passport read as Elena, but it could have also been read as Helena, and you could have had an H on that luggage if it weren't wiped away. So why are they trying to dissuade us from the fact that her name starts with an H? And so this grease spot and the wet luggage kind of leads you to believe that maybe it was the Countess who did it. We start discussing the killer's original plan, which was to kill Ratchet and then get off the train at the next stop. But since the train had stopped because of an unexpected snowbank, the killer had to wait in the room, and that's why he or she was stuck in Miss Hubbard's room, because they did not want to be caught by someone walking into that room. Then they start talking about the notes and how if certain people had found the note and had known that he had been that person, then, well, certain people might have connected him to other people on the train, and well, It gets pretty complicated, but it's pretty much if people had connected them to that person, then that person would be the main suspect for killing Ratchet. But still, Poirot is like, it's all about the princess. The princess is the one who did it. I am confident that the princess is the one who did it, but I will go through all the steps and knock off a few other people just to assuade you and let you know that it is definitely the princess who did this. They have dinner with all the guests, and everyone's really quiet, and everyone's really remote, and everyone leaves except for the count and the countess, and they leave last. And Perrault walks up with the handkerchief, and he says, "Oh, countess, you dropped your handkerchief." And she says, "Oh, thank you. Wait, this isn't mine." And he's like, "Oh, well, it has an H. Doesn't your name begin with H?" And she says, "No, it starts with E." And he says, "Oh. Are you sure that it doesn't start with an H?" I have no idea how long my camera is out. So Perrault keeps on pushing them, keeps on saying, "Are you sure this isn't your handkerchief? Are you sure your name doesn't start with an H?" Until finally the count and the countess go, "Fine! Fine, it does start with an H. I wiped the thing off the thing. I did that thing and it starts with an H. It is Helena." And they're like, "Oh, so you are the person that we're looking for." It's like, no, I didn't do it. I swear it wasn't me. I would never... Sure, I hated that man, but no, I would never lay a hand on anyone. I promise, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. And everyone's like, "So who did?" They're like, "We don't know." He keeps on pressing them about their past, and Helena says, "Well, when I was being brought up, there was this woman, and she had killed herself because she had believed that it was her fault that he had kidnapped her. And when she ended up dead, it made her very depressed, and she killed herself." And Perrault's like, "Oh, who is this? Is this an English lady?" And she gives a ridiculous name. I can't even remember. It's like Spielbergening. And I'm like, what? Still, the clues that she gives there doesn't lead to anyone else on the train so far. So, that's where our section ends. And I'm loving how much this book doesn't give too much away. I'm loving the piecing of the information that has been given to us, because usually by now in a detective story, I'm like, "Oh, I know who did it. I know who did it. It was that person." And right now, I'm still kind of all up in the air. Right now, I'm still at this point where I still don't even believe Perrault, who is our main detective guy, who's the guy that I should be believing unequivocally, but I still don't. You need to prove to me that it was a princess. And I'm just like, this is so good. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you like this video specifically, go ahead and click that like button, and go ahead and leave a comment letting me know, what is your favorite mystery? Any kind of mystery, fantasy mystery, sci-fi mystery, this kind of mystery, cozy mystery. I don't care. Just tell me what your favorite mystery is, because this one is really high up there for me right now. I've been Elliot the Purple Haired Doofus. This has been Buddy Reads, reminding you to watch your Pajama Radius, and I will see you all in the finale of Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. Toodles!